Hangout on there is live. This Hangout on there is live. And so if I share my screen, let's say I present to everybody. Yeah. So like in my last video, which I embedded into my last blog post, which, let me kill you, which is this right here, this F# view model dependency injection. If you notice, I was trying to be clever by saying view model, the constructor, parameter is dependency injection. That's me trying to be clever for anybody that's familiar with, well, dependency injection or C# or F# object-oriented programming support. Anyway, I have this little blog post. I embedded a video from my last video in which I talk about within domain-driven design, me practicing out loud and also recording myself practicing out loud, implementing and wiring up a view model to this domain-driven design workflow. Yes. And I have some source code, which I don't like this scroll bar, man. I don't know how to, there's so much real estate on here. Like, why can't I push this stuff back? Or maybe it's because it's ads on here. Anyway, so I did a brain dump and I showed an example of the unit test that I wrote for submitting. I demonstrated the example of leveraging a type extension. For example, within C#, I believe we call it a method extension, to support my automated tests to make it look cool, right? So specifically, this is an example of a type extension in which I add a method to this view model. Oh, which is, I just double clicked and it did all this. That's not cool. Let me try to refresh this. Let me try to scroll back down, bring it, what's going on? Bring it back. In which I take my view model and I add a method to it called fill in. And you can see that this method extension that I added is actually leveraged right here, in which I have a value called registration that's of type view model, in which we inject a mock submit implementation, aka function, in this instance of view model. And we say registration.fill-in, which fills in some required which provides some values to the required properties in order for us to submit a registration. And I try to use this thing called Fluent API. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but this fill-in returns to the actual instance of the registration. And I then say event occurred. I want you to subscribe. And this view model says for when the registration succeeds, if I scroll further down, we basically mutate this registration succeeded value to be true. Else, if the registration failed, then we assign false to this registration succeeded. And we verify registration succeeded at our verify stage of our automated test, which is right here. Yes. Okay. The test is actually registration.submit command.execute, which is right here. Yeah. All right. And I showed my test API with the type extension. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So in my last video, last blog post, I implemented and tested the business logic for a registration view model. Yes. All right. So this video, I'm going to do some partial support for this whole notion of a portal view model. So specifically, when you register, when the user registers via a form and they submit that validated form, right, through after executing a validation workflow, then theoretically they should be logged in to a portal or a dashboard. And so this is all based on the Nikeza.io web application that I wrote. It's still a prototype. There's some loose ends on it that I'm even after writing that application, the web application using Elm as the functional programming language, I'm still not a fan of web development. Even when I don't have to interact with JavaScript. But enough of it is up there right now. It's actually I kind of I'm not really proud of my implementation of Elm. I mean, this was me killing two birds with one stone and basically learning a new programming language at the same time of building a potential product. I haven't visited this in a while. I wonder if it's still running. Oh, it's still running. All right. So this is Nikeza.io. And dependency injection and domain-driven design. Okay. And yeah, this is pretty much my dashboard for the stuff that I'm interested in. And you can basically, looks like Odie had wrote a blog post, unless I added that, on the 26th, Link Basics 03. If I click on that, view all 30, those are answers in Stack Overflow. Articles. So what is that, a video? That's probably a video that Odie has. Yeah, he has a YouTube video. And yeah, this is his YouTube video. So this is the case actually working. Good stuff. If there's a comment, on here, I can say, good stuff, Odie. I found your video on Nikeza.io. It is actually working. Yay. Okay, so did that. Everybody look at Odie's video and his Medium .com blog account and his YouTube video. Look at all that stuff. All right, I wasn't expecting to see that. But anyway, this is Nikeza web application. And what I'm building is Nikeza.io. Yes. All right. So this is the registration view model. And now I'm building the portal view model. The portal view model is, yeah, I think this is probably going to be a provider that gets returned. I should probably say that. All right. Uh-oh, what's that right there? Provider. You recognize this provider. Come here. Provider. Yes. There's no two V's in provider though. Something like that. Okay. So this is supposed to be a portal, right? And so the portal to demonstrate is like if I say Scott memorize. If I log into Nikeza at bizmonger.net and I say 1, 2, 3, then like this is my dashboard. Of course, there's a subtle bug in here when I click latest. Then, why isn't, there's some issues with his RSS feed. I'm not showing up in here either. But this right here is up to date. The RSS feed for .NET Rocks is up to date, but the RSS feed for Functional Geekery is not up to date. It's not showing my episode or any other episodes that are the latest. Today is January 2nd, 2018. What else? Well, this is the, oh yeah, what I wanted to show is the dashboard, right? So the dashboard is going to basically by default show recent links, but you also have access to your portfolio, which you can configure. Like you can go to your profile, which is just right here, in which you list your data sources. You can add or remove data sources right here. You have your subscriptions, the people that you care about receiving content on. And you have your followers, and you have your members, all the members within the Keza network, right? So like this is like the dashboard, but this is the first view of the dashboard is your recent links. So with that said, there is probably a, should we really be calling this portal.viewModel? Or should we call this portal.recentlinks.viewModel? I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Portal.recent.viewModel. Like, I mean, I could put whatever I want in here. And Visual Studio keeps throwing up error messages at me. Okay. So this is portal.recent namespace, and it's going to take a provider. Let's say this property is provider, something like that. Okay. So the view model that we have for this is now the recent page, right? So the recent page, yeah, there's a couple things. This changes everything. For the recent page, we have this should really be called user. User, like this. The user can view their recent updates from the people that they subscribe to. Okay. Now what? So this is the recent view model. And so there's going to be a member text.latest. And that's going to be a list of providers. Okay. That makes sense. And this is ultimately, this is going to have to implement MVVM, which means that the user is straight because that was injected in the view model. The latest feed should probably be latest, which is private by default within a class, equals, and then we probably have, I don't know, try dot submit, log out, save, submit function. All these are commands. Instead of try, we probably should have something like query. And this query is actually pointing to, looks like, oh, this query is part of link query builder. That's what it looks like. But in this case, we want to say, I could do a cap query, which hasn't been implemented yet, perhaps. I want to say query latest, like this. That when I implement this query module.latest is going to return the list of the latest feeds of a provider. Okay. Now that hasn't been done yet, but if it were done, then let me see, control comma try like that. And we have our, that's under the nikeza.mobile.profile. The question is, that's for profile. We would want to do subscription. We probably would want to do this under subscriptions. And we have a try here, which is follow, unsubscribe. Okay. What we should add here is a type called, or a module called query, because some industry leaders say that it's a good idea to separate queries from commands, command query, segregation, something, something, so that they can evolve independently of one another, right? So I had a module called query like this. This probably should be called nikeza.mobile. Well, I don't do that in here. This is internal. This is internal, which I know for a fact needs to be public, because my view model, which is in the different assembly, which is in my UI logic, is going to rely on this try within this subscriptions mounted context. Okay. So in this query, this module called query, which more than likely something else I should probably do is probably the nikeza.mobile subscriptions try, something like that. And should probably have the same thing over here. And then we have this function called, we have a function called latest, like this. And because this is doing I/O, it may not be successful, right? Which means that because it's doing I/O, it should return a result. Oh, we should probably, so I know for a fact that by default, I'm going to just say error. And it's going to return maybe provider, a list of providers. But we should first enforce our design, which I haven't really introduced for this query. The query design should be something like type, and I would say latest function equals, you provide the provider, provide the profile ID of the user, okay? And that is going to, the output should be a results. If it's successful, you have a provider list, something like that. That's from Nikeza. That should be, I need to import Nikeza.data transfer, something like that. Provider, why aren't you being recognized? Why aren't you being recognized? Okay, now it's being recognized. So if it's successful, it returns a provider list. If it's not successful, then we just probably return an error message, right? Let's just say string. And the error message, because we're doing IO, if this were a running application, would be like maybe a connection error. You know, it'll be a description about what the details of that error is that we represent as a string. Okay. So that's the latest function. It takes a provider ID. If it's successful, which would be okay, it would have a provider list attached to it. Else, if it was not successful, meaning error, result.error, it will have a string value attached to it. In this case, I say error, and this error is going to have something like because it's an error, say not yet implemented, something like that. Okay. So we have that. And I probably should keep it simple right now. Oh, yeah. What I need to do is this latest, somehow we need to make it enforce this. We need to make it comply with this latest function. So we say latest outputs latest function. And uh-oh, what's this about? Well, because it outputs the latest function, then we then say, uh-oh, come here. We then say something like fun, and it takes a profile ID. I don't want to say profile ID. I would say user ID. And it is going to basically do something like this right here. Right now, we're not using a user ID, but in the future we will. But for now, I could just do this right here since it's not being used. And the compiler appears to be happy. All right. So that is under subscriptions query. That's what we just implemented the module for. By default, we just return the error not yet implemented. And if I go back to portal.recent, then I probably need, in UI logic, I probably need to add a reference to subscriptions, which is what I'm doing right here. There's a reference to subscriptions. And, well, let's see what happens when we try to build. If anything, it's going to complain about the namespace that we recently updated. And we get some errors. It says try is not defined. And you're right, because it's Nikeza dot mobile dot, I thought it was subscriptions dot try. Yep, that's as I expected. And we probably need to add this everywhere else, this import of this Nikeza mobile subscriptions try. So we do that here. And, you know, I really want to say, yeah, I could do that like that. And do I really want to have this down here? I guess so. If I try to build, it's throwing me some more errors. It says that it's not compatible with 1.6. What version are you? You are 2. it looks like you're pointing to 2.0. Change you to 1.6. Try to build. It's trying to build, it's trying to build, it's trying to build, it's trying to build. I have one more error. It says query is not defined. So I open up I import the query namespace. And we don't have any more errors, supposedly. So we're returning back to my view model. Everything builds now. I have latest equals query.latest. And that is going to be of type user dot profile dot ID. And it says, what do I need to do? Profile ID like this, or profile. How do you do this? Is it happy if I do that? It's happy when I do this. Okay. Latest equals query.latest, and I pass in a profile ID type and user.profile ID. And Odie just replied to my comment about me finding him on Nikeza. And where are we at? If I scroll down, sooner or later it's going to load in some comments. But yeah, it's 437 subscribers. I only have like, I think 150. View reply. Hopefully it's something nice. Looks like you have a real product on your hands. Great work. And I recorded my observation of your new video. I'll just say that. If we go back to here, remember we're trying to do this view model. So this portal, I feel like I'm saying porno. This portal.recent.view model. So far, it takes in a user that's of a provider type, and within a constructor, which I don't know. I was told that constructors should never do IO, and I think this code right here is considered the constructor of this view model class. And I think they're right. What we probably should have is a load. We probably should have a member.load. Okay. This member.load, member x.load. This member x.load should have question is, well, let me say no right now. Yes, I know that's bad, but I just want to put this code over here. Our load is going to basically the latest is ultimately going to be a list, okay? It's going to be a list of what? It's going to be a list of providers, something like that, okay? Now, when we load, we attempt to get latest by calling query.latest, and that's going to return a result type, okay? If it's actually doing the IO, it's going to return by default a result type of error because we haven't really fleshed out the logic for IO. So then I can say pipe the result into a function in which I really want to do pattern matching. I'll say okay, and then we have our providers. And I could just do this providers like that. But if it's error, then I have a reason why it's in there. Something like that, right? But we're not really, what are we doing? If it's an error, then, and we have a reason, then we probably don't want to return an empty list. We probably want to display a page saying something happened, right? That's a better approach to handling any type of error regarding the page, regarding a query not being able to execute. So what we really want to do is we want to say like, which leads me to this, is we have a event occurred that we need to implement. And we say, now this is interesting. The query is only going to return, yeah. I want to say event occurred, and I want to say latest I'm not sure, something failed. Latest, I don't know, subscriber feeds failed. Subscription feeds failed. Or I could be exercise intelligence and say, well, what type of events do we have under subscriptions? Links discovered, subscriber added, subscriber removed failed. What we don't have in here is we don't have get latest failed. Get latest failed. And I'm not sure if we should have a get latest succeeded. It is a domain event, but these events have usually been based on commands that have been executed. They haven't really been based on queries, because right now the current implementation is we query. Yeah, see, that's the part where I'm kind of like on the fence. Should a query return a domain event, or should a query just return the results of a query? I'm kind of leaning towards a query should probably return a domain event so that we're consistent with, well, domain events. In this case, a domain event is get latest succeeded and get latest failed, and all that can be in here. If we don't do that, then we have a get latest failed as a well, that's not a notification event though. Hold up. Probably introduce a new type, which is query event. But to be specific, it's query latest event. If we break it down like that, well, I'll do it like this: query event. And if you do query event, I got to add the equal sign. Get latest failed. But I should be optimistic and say get latest succeeded as the first one. Okay. So we have a query event, get latest succeeded, get latest failed. Now, with that said, well, that changes everything. What's going to happen is if I introduce this notion of a query event, something tells me to make this even more specific. Module. I don't know. Keep it simple for right now until I find a need. Okay, fine. I'll keep it simple until I find a need. This query event, if we use this, then what's going to happen is this, where am I at? Kill you. This try over here, this query over here, it's now going to maybe not necessarily return a result of okay or error, but it's going to return events. It's going to return, what is this called? It's going to return a list of query events. And if I hit control dot, it's not recognizing it. If I go here, we call this, in the case of mobile, subscription events, like this. So let's try to import it. Open, something like that. Okay. And it's still not recognizing it. Why aren't you being recognized, my friend? The query module should rely on the events module. Let's make sure that that is the case. If we go into our project properties, our query module is coming before events module. We want it to come after events module in this order. Save that. And this should work. And it does work. Okay. So we have latest function equals, okay, our function type, latest function will take a profile ID as input and it will return a query event list. If it's going to return a query event list, then by default, we're going to say latest is going to be a, oh, let me see what I'm doing. If it's failed, then we probably should have of string, something like that. If it succeeded, then we have a provider list, something like that. Okay. And so we say get latest failed, something like that. And we say not yet implemented, something like that. Oh, okay. Now what? So we got some errors, and the error says we're expecting a type result when doing pattern matching, but we don't have a result. We have a query. We have query event, right? So we now change this from get latest succeeded. We changed OK to get latest succeeded providers, and should also have get latest failed like this, something like that. And it doesn't know what that is, which means that I need to import this. Okay, the mobile subscription events. Say open. And you should be happy, my friend. Why aren't you happy? Get latest. Query event list. Oh, because it's returning a list of events and it's not returning a discriminated union. So I understand that. So to try to think this through, we say let events equal that right there. And then we just, because we're in this view model, we just want to publish these events, man. That's it. And a client to our view model can take these events and do whatever it wants with it. And this was the pattern that I used for the registration form. So in the registration form, I have, first I need to do this let event occurred somewhere up here. Okay. And then there's this let publish events, event occurred, whatever. I'm not sure if I really, this event is registration submission event. Something tells, for right now, I'm going to copy paste this, but I believe that this can be treated, this can be refactored to be a generic function. Event, I really do believe that, which I'll revisit later. But to get this done for right now, I am going to throw this function over here. Boom, boom, boom. Go back. Do that right there. Okay. And we basically say, do it like that, then I should be able to say this, publish events, and that should work. Something like that. This publish events. So what's happening is I have a member.load operation, which is right here. And I say query.latest, and I provided the profile ID of the user. And whatever the result of that query.latest is, I just want to publish the events, whether it succeeded with the providers attached to it, or if it failed with the reason why expressed as a string. Okay. Now, so I copy and pasted this publish events, which is also found right here. And so what I should be able to do is I should be able to just create one function to do this. But this event occurred is basically this event occurred, if I go to the definition, well, it just says event, right? Okay, so let me see something. In our UI logic, I have adapter in here, which who knows what this does. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I guess I'll just create for right now. See, this adapter of unvalidated, that's specific to registration. This registration.types over here. Is this even being used? I think it is. All right, let me just create a new file called, I'm going to call it event publisher, whatever. And I'll change the name when I come up with a better name. This event publisher basically has, this event publisher has published events. And you know what? I don't even call this event publisher. I'm just going to call it publisher. Okay. Publisher is over here. Update the name, publisher, that. And this module is going to have a publish events. Okay. Now what? Well, event occurred. Sound like this. And it's like, oh, hell's bells. I don't know what event occurred is. Okay, well, then I could say event occurred is a event that can be anything. And it says, okay, well, I'm happy with that. Okay. All right, good. All right. If you're happy with that, and I probably should follow the naming conventions, nikeza.mobile.ui logic .publisher. Okay. So I say, okay, you're happy with that, right? It says yes. Compiler says yes, I'm happy with that. And I say, all right, well, yo, let me import you. Open this right here. Doesn't recognize publisher. We go to our UI logic, and we need to make sure our publisher comes before our view models. So publisher does come before our view models. It's right here. This portal.recent. I want all my view models to be close together. something like that. Okay. So publisher is not defined. Why aren't you defined, publisher? And publisher is now defined. It took a while for the compiler to catch up. Oh, no, it says not defined anymore. Okay. Well, first, let's make sure that you are with your friends, right? Something like that. Okay, you're with your friends. Now, why aren't you being defined? Like, let me just try to build. Maybe if I build, then things will get in sync. I'm building, and everything succeeds. Okay, good stuff. That's all I needed to do. Get rid of this end over here. Now, publisher, you have this. You have a function called publish events. So all I should really be able to do, theoretically, that means that I can get rid of this publish events function over here. Theoretically, I should be able to do this. Okay. Registration, you have imported publisher. I'm not going to trip on you right now because I think you're going to work. And this publish events over here. Oh, you know what? Because I need to pass in the event occurred. I need to pass that in. But I should be able to get rid of you over here. Hold up. My phone's ringing. And I'm losing focus right now. Publish events should take this event occurred over here. Something like that. If I go back to this, publish events should also take this over here. Event occurred. And I should be able to build. It says build failed, publish events not defined. Because I need to import the publisher module, which is this right here. Okay. And you probably should be with your friends like that. Okay. And see if that builds. It builds. I am awesome. Okay. You got that right there. And if I go back to this portal.recent view model, we basically say query latest for our load operation because we didn't want that to be in our constructor because our constructor should have pure logic. We don't want to have any exceptions in our constructor, so I moved this out to member.load. It says query latest, and it passes in the profile ID as our argument. And our query latest is going to return events. With those events that are returned, whether events are the query latest succeeded or the query latest failed, we publish those events for some client to basically work with, to observe and work with. And which means that this over here, this latest, that is really going to be mutable. That's going to be mutable. Okay, because we're going to keep updating this latest, potentially. Because we're doing MVVM, which means that what we are doing is we are saying latest. Let me figure out how to do this. Come here. We should be doing something like latest. We're going to mutate to take this result over here. No. How's this going to work? We need to. How's this going to work? This latest. Let's go back. We could say events equals that right there. Sooner or later, we want to say events, publish events occurred, something like that. Say let events, something like that. Now, what we want to do is we publish those events, right? And the reason why we publish those events, because if we have an error, then we want our application logic to perform navigation showing an error page that provides a reason why there is an error, right? Now, if there's, so we do that anyway. And if there's no error, well, the navigation is still going to process the fact that there's no error, and it's not going to do any navigate. All right, that makes sense. Well, what if there's no error then? Well, if we do that, then we probably need to say that because this is events, we should be able to say something like list.contains. Okay. And we should say it latest succeeded. Something like that. And it doesn't know what get latest succeeded is, which means that we import this again. Something like that. Let's say open, something like that. Okay. It says that this expression is missing the function value. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do right here. Let me just try to build it. What I want to say is, I want to say like if list.contains succeeded, then what? Well, then latest needs to be updated with, yeah, that's probably what it should look like. The latest should be updated with providers. And it doesn't like that either. Something like that. Else, then let's say latest should be equal, which theoretically this should never happen because we just do navigation. Or we could do, yeah, I don't know, something like this. Okay. And maybe we should go something like this. And if we do something like that, then we probably can get rid of this over here. And we just pipe that like that. Query.latest. Okay. Now what? I got to figure out how to resolve this error over here. List that contains. Oh yeah. So it's still the same thing, right? we say let events equal events pipe into that, and then we have to say over here if events pipe that into list.contains get latest succeeded with providers. And it doesn't like this over here. So the expression was expected to have query event list, but here has this events is a list. Yeah, this one I'm not too sure about. If I replace that with like this right here, the value of providers is not defined. Maybe you want, I don't know what this thing is asking for. What are you asking for? You're asking to do this? No. All right. So this is where I'm fumbling down the field. If events pipes into the list that contains get latest, how else can we do this? All right. Well, maybe I'm using the wrong method. Instead, let's comment all this out and let's try to be more functional and say events pipe into function. We're going to do pattern matching, in which we say, oh, that doesn't. If it's successful, then it's only going to be one event, right? Which is get latest succeeded, okay? And if it's succeeded, it's going to have providers, okay? And if it has providers, then we can say latest is mutated with the providers, something like that, okay? Theoretically. And which means that there's nothing else. How does this work? We have a get latest succeeded. How does this work? Providers like that. Uh-oh, what just happened? I think we have like something like this. Else, if it's anything else, then oh, Scott, you're so smart. Else, if it's anything else, then we actually have this up here. La, la, la. I actually have this here. So publish events occurred. But we know for a fact that this latest succeeded is can only be one other thing in here, so we don't really have to do a wildcard. We could just do this right here, and then we say reason, something like that. And we can say something like that. And it's saying that for anything else, yeah. So I don't have to do this anymore. Let's just do this right here. Return back. I don't like the fact that this goes out so far. If I bring this back over here, then have this right here. I can live with that. Bring that back over here. Yes. Which means that we can get rid of these. Do I really need? Can I leave this events out? If I did that, and then I did this, it wouldn't know what events are. Yes, it would. Because it would be this right here. Or would it? Yeah. Boom, boom. That might be straight. And we could call this other events. Other events. And if we do it like that, that's what it would look like. Okay, which means that I don't like the way that this sits over here. And this back, this, something like that. Which I don't like the way that looks either. Hold up. That might be better. Try to build, and it should be a green build. And just for the sake of testing, my test should all still pass, which I haven't added a new test for this recent view model. But I'm going to terminate this video, and this is the current implementation so far of this Portal.recent view model, in which we're loading in providers that have the latest content or the latest links to their content. And that's what this is right here. That is based on this Nikeza IO up here, right? In this case, we're doing the mobile version, Android and iOS, by means of Xamarin Forms. And this is the view model logic that I'm starting out with, and this is the partial implementation of it. Good exercise, practicing out loud. I'm Scott Nimrod, available for hire. And yeah, that's it. So stop this broadcast, and peace.